Let us help you reach your peak in retirement. It's time for Retirement Elevated with Sean Lee.
It's Retirement Elevated podcast with Sean Lee and myself here to talking about the right advisor, finding the right advisor for yourself. And we're going to spend a little bit of time today on the podcast. We'll keep it short and sweet, but really just around the concept of geographic location. Things have changed so much over the last 3 years or so, COVID, post-COVID, so on and so forth. And so it has people kind of pondering that relationship mentality a little bit different than maybe in years prior. So that's going to be the topic of the conversation this week on the podcast with Sean. What's going on, buddy? How are you?
I'm doing well, man. Just enjoying the fact that the kids are back in school and we've got a routine again. It's been good.
Routines are helpful, aren't they? They in so many walks of life. It can be good things.
And I think we got it down quick. Like my daughter,
nice.
She started at the high school. She's a freshman. She switched she went to Catholic school from age of 3 all the way through 8th grade. And then she decided to make the change and go to one of our public schools that has a great, really good cheer program.
Nice.
And so we got into routine really quick. She has to be at practice at 6:45 in the morning some days, and then I drop her at 7:10 the other days, and it allows me to go to the gym, shower, and get here still in a timely manner, which in the summertime, your routine goes out the window if you're running with kids or they're just enjoying things or whatever it may be. So it's been really good.
Good. Well, and it's again that time of the year, right, when we're kind of getting back into those routines, and maybe routines are again a helpful thing to do. And so one of the things that we wanted to talk about with this conversation piece is if you're looking for a new advisor, maybe you're into a routine. Sometimes people say, well, I'm stuck in a rut, right? I'm in the same old routine over and over again. Well, maybe if you're feeling like you're in that situation with an advisor and you're on the hunt for someone new, now hopefully you've gone through the process of determining that it is the right move to look for a new one and not just re-talk about things and set expectations and things of that nature. But if it's truly the right fit for you to move, a big question that's been happening more and more, as I said in the opening, Sean, is with the change in technology and our comfort level, right? Because post-COVID, maybe getting people to talk about, go onto a Zoom meeting and do financial reviews and things of that nature was probably a little harder to do, right? People just were a little skeptical about that. But that's changed a lot.
Yeah, virtual wasn't, prior to COVID, virtual wasn't a thing for us. It was, every single person that wanted to meet with us came into our office. We sat down face to face, which I enjoy. I still love meeting with people face to face because I think that there's a lot, that's how you build stronger relationships and so on. But we never even, imagined that at this point in time, half of our meetings are still virtual.
Well, and it's not even just because of any kind of fear factor. I talk to advisors all across the country. It's not even that, right? It's simply that once you got over the initial, I guess, whatever mental hurdle there was, it's like, well, why get in the car and drive across town? If it's just across town, right? Like, why drive across town or this, that, and the other when we can just jump on and go through a conversation with each other, especially if we're doing basically an annual review or maybe a biannual review or something like that. So people have gotten a lot more comfortable with it, which I think is a good thing. Heck, you don't have to even put on pants.
I know, right? Well, and that's changed the dress code a little bit, right?
Right.
COVID changed a lot of things, good and bad, from a practice perspective.
Right.
I spoke about this with our marketing team years ago that, I truly believe that at some point in time, or I believed it, then I believe it now, that at some point in time, people will look for the advisor that's the right fit for them, not the one that's closest geographically.
Well, that's a great point. So, because if you're on the hunt, like I was talking about here in my kind of setup for this, if you're thinking about making a change, traditionally you might just type in you might go on Google and just put financial advisors near me, right?
Right.
And you depending on where you live, you could get a lot of responses or very little. And so, is it really a criteria piece as much as it used to be? I would say no, but you kind of did mention something earlier that a lot of people still want to look someone in the eye and shake hands. That still could go a long way. But is it the best move for you in your situation nowadays? I think now you have to at least be open to the idea that, hey, I could find someone doing a better job for me that's 500 miles away.
Easy is close, right?
Right.
The advisor down the street, they're easy to go to. Maybe I went to a dinner seminar, I heard them on the radio, and they're close right by my house, and that's easy to do. Mm-hmm. However, that may not be what's right to do. That particular advisor may not have the skill set, tools, resources, whatever it may be, to help you in your unique situation. And so what we're finding now is that a lot of our meetings, our reviews, whatever it may be, they are done virtually. We do about half of new meetings in office, but we still have a big group of people that, like, it's easy for me to jump online and have a meeting with you for an hour to get to know or to find out if you're the right fit, if you're the right advisor for me, if you have the tools, the skills, all that stuff. And it doesn't matter if they're in Utah or we work with families. It's been neat to see. We work with families all over the country at this point in time because of the virtual capabilities.
Yeah. So what's your thoughts on that? Like, I mean, for those folks who are in that position where they kind of feel like, okay, I'm looking for somebody new, but I still like the idea of being able to look somebody in the eye and shake somebody's hand, that kind of thing. That can still go a long way, I think, towards the trust aspect. So that could be a hurdle people feel like they have to overcome if they're finding maybe a better suited advisor, but that they're not local.
Right. And it does. People that are local here, we try to do a first discussion here in our office. But if we're unable to do that, if it's done virtually, we want families to get the same experience that they would get if they walked in. And so we spend a lot of time doing our strategy meetings in the same conference room we would do strategy sessions in, right? So you can see, you get the experience, you get maybe we send out a video as a walkthrough of our office so people know that I'm just not a guy or my team aren't guys that are working out of the trunk of their car,
right?
Or at home or whatever it may be. So there's some things that we can do externally or internally to make that a little bit more comfortable experience where we are meeting face to face, and then a lot of it goes with camera work. Let's have cameras on, let's be able to see each other, and let's have conversations face to face, even if we're not in the same room.
Yeah, and I guess really it's going to come down to personal proclivities there, right? Like, how do you feel about it? Can you get over? And I know a lot of advisors will, it's easier, let's say, if you started the relationship, right? Because many of your clients, I'm sure, Sean, when they started with you guys, are like, hey, we're moving from Utah to Florida to retire, or, something like that, right? And you still maintain those relationships because they started already. However, there's also a lot of advisors who I talk with some that'll, they take on clients in new locations, and they'll, even when they're head out that way sometimes, like if we're going to be in that area, so we're going to let's get together and have a dinner, or meet and shake hands, that kind of thing, or whatever. So there's lots of ways to work around it, but I think what's the ultimate goal? Finding the person that does the best job, finding the firm that does the best job, I would think, right?
Yeah, does it matter if they're in Utah, Massachusetts, Washington State? If it's an advisor that you connect with that does a great job for you, at this day and age, it doesn't matter where they're located. It's the job. Can you do a good job?
So if you're struggling with that, what are some things maybe, Sean, we can kind of get people to think about, like some questions to maybe ask themselves or ask the potential new advisor who isn't, down the street? Any thoughts there?
When we look at this and it's hard. Maybe you're sitting at home thinking, well, how do I find an advisor that's in Massachusetts if I live in Utah? Right? How do I know if they're the right fit for me? Mm-hmm. And good advisors are talked about. And so talk to your family, friends, regardless of the state that they live in. Anybody who's had a really good experience with their advisor, and ask if they'd be willing to talk to you, and interview a couple of advisors locally, in state, out of state. It really doesn't matter where they're located. We get those questions all the time. Sean, will you talk to my brother in Nevada? Absolutely, right. We will. Even local doesn't even necessarily mean just out of state. It means in a different part of our state too. So I work with families in St. George. That's primarily done virtually.
Okay.
And so some of the questions that I would ask people are, or ask an advisor is, how do you handle this relationship if we're virtual? What is my planning process going to look like with you virtually?
Well, a big question I imagine is going to be security, right?
Right.
So what are some of the things there for people to kind of ponder and know? Because there's a lot of, obviously, these portals and things nowadays, they're going to be secure information if you're sending information back and forth.
Yeah, I mean, we've got secure portals on our website, through our planning website. We will also, if clients just don't want to upload documents, we will send a UPS overnight label via email.
Okay.
And they can overnight the docs to us. We want to keep information as private as possible.
Right.
Especially in today's day and age. I get calls weekly. Hey, so-and-so, their data was...
Oh, yeah. Constantly hacked.
Was hacked. Was I affected?
Yeah.
No. I mean, so there's a lot of those questions that come with it. But spend the time finding the advisor that's going to give you the in-person experience virtually.
Okay. Interesting. I like the way you think about that. So, yeah, I mean, there's a lot of little hurdles to overcome, but again, in today's day and age, what's your mindset on these things? There's some things you still need to go, obviously, you got to go down the street to the tire shop. You can't get your tires changed virtually. But there's a lot of other businesses nowadays where I think we've gotten more comfortable with the concept of dealing with things over the virtual aspect. And once you do have that right fit, I think the reason we've seen so many people even slow down on the in-person conversations that you were talking about, like when they come in even for reviews, is because it's like, hey, why bother? Why go in? We got a great relationship. Things are working. Let's just jump on, do a Zoom call or whatever the case is, make sure everything is going along swimmingly, or make changes, or conversate about whatever that looks like. But if you were in Florida still working with someone that you started with originally that was in Utah, it's not like you're driving back to Utah for that once a year meeting, right?
Right.
So
now, if you come out here, we for sure want to meet face to face.
Right. Right.
But virtual is just as easy, and you can get just as much done, and you save a little bit of time.
Yeah, and you don't have to wear pants. So, just make sure your camera's set the right way.
It's the business on top, and
that's right. It's like
casual on the bottom.
It's the mullet, the mullet hairstyle of the modern business world, right?
That's right. Dress shirt and basketball shorts.
Yeah, business up front, party in the back. That was what the mullet was.
You have no idea how many times during COVID I actually did that.
Oh, it's just sitting there. Well, PJs, right? Like, yeah, people they jump on a business call and they look, totally professional from the waist up, but they still got their PJs on at the bottom, right?
Exactly.
So, yeah. And I think a lot of times it's going to come down to just kind of getting comfortable, going through the process, maybe having some of those initial meetings, the same as that you would in office. You're just going to be doing those virtually and finding out if it's the right fit, watching the presentation, going through the data, so on and so forth. But overall, I think people have warmed to the idea more and more since COVID. So we'll see how that continues to change. Because if you do, again, depending on where you live, you could Google, let me find a new advisor, and you might have hundreds of options, and you may have very little options depending on, again, where you live. So it may be worth it to consider. All right. Well, that's going to do it this week. Anything else you can think of?
That's good for today, my man.
All right. Well, if you've got some questions about, transitioning to a new advisor, lots of other things to ponder there, making sure documents are taken care of, questions to ask, things to sign, making sure in-kind transfers, things of that nature so that you're not having tax issues. Make sure that you always talk with a qualified professional before you change advisors. And obviously, just to go through the process of auditioning and interviewing advisors to find the right fit for you. Talk to 1, 2, 3, 4 different ones and see who is the right fit for you. And if you need some help, reach out to Sean and his team at Elevated Retirement Group. You can find them online at elevatemyretirement.com. That's elevatemyretirement.com. And subscribe to the podcast while you're there as well. Sean, have a great week, and good luck with back to school and all that good stuff.
Sounds good, my man. Thank you.
We'll see you next time here on the podcast. This is Retirement Elevated with Sean Lee.
Investment advisory services offered through Elevated Capital Advisors, LLC, and SEC Registered Investment Advisor.